Before I get into this, I'm just gonna have to say that a lot of this video is unscripted. This whole video is unscripted, actually. Everything's gonna be scatterbrained. Everything's gonna be all over the place. There's no structure to any of this. My thoughts are gonna be completely random. But I'm gonna try my best to describe these movies. So please ignore all my stutterings and all my uses of so's and ums and fun and wonderful. Enjoy the video. Alright, here we go. The top 21 movies of 2018. Alright, so here's how this is gonna work. I'm gonna name the top 21 movies of 2018, then I'm gonna name everything else, starting from the worst to the best. Yeah, let's get started. At number 21, we have Deadpool 2. I think this is extraordinarily better than the first one. I love the first one a lot, but I think this one does a lot better story-wise, action-wise, comedy-wise even like the cinematography is so much better. One of the directors of John Wick, David Leitch, I have no idea. God, I was not expecting this movie to be as good as it is, but yes, I definitely recommend you guys watch this. It's nowhere near a perfect movie. Of course there's not. There's a lot of, plot holes and a lot of, slow-ish moments. But throughout the whole time, I was thoroughly entertained and I was laughing my ass off. At number 20, we have Sorry to Bother You. This movie I've been looking forward to for a long time. I tried to watch this in a theater. I just couldn't find anywhere that it was showing. I saw it on iTunes. I was a little upset, a little disappointed with it because I thought it was going to be a lot more chaotic and hectic. Like the first hour or so, I was waiting for some interesting things to happen. And there are some interesting things, a lot of different and interesting, unique ideas that were put into this movie. But once you get to a certain scene, that you'll know this, you'll know it when you see it. It's gonna shock the hell out of you, make your jaw drop to the floor, and from that point on, you're gonna have a fucking blast watching this movie. I'm not gonna say what that scene is, but you'll know it when you see it. It's gonna be so freaking weird and so experimental that you're like, oh, okay, this is gonna get a hell of a lot more interesting now. Not only do you have weird, experimental, unique stuff. You have great performances from everyone across the board. Everyone was so funny. Everyone brought their A game to their role. And the film is just so well directed, and the editing is so nice, and this whole surreal feel this movie has. I was hoping for this one to be my favorite film of the year. Unfortunately, it wasn't because there's just too much that I just didn't like. And the first hour is a little slow. It's it's building up, setting up the whole story. But I just wish I could have done the first hour or so in a better way. But again, once you get to that point of insanity, it's gonna change and you're gonna love it. Next up, we got Under the Silver Lake. Now, there is a lot. This film, I can't really I don't know how to describe this film other than ambitious. There is a lot to love about this film. Andrew Garfield was spectacular in it. This is one of I think this is one of his best performances since, I want to say, The Social Network. He was fantastic in this film, and I loved him. He really brought out that very loser-like, scumbag, douchey attitude and just worked with it. It felt so natural for him for some reason. And not only is he great, but everyone was great. The set design, all the different locations that he goes to are so incredible. The story itself, there was a lot of dumb moments in the story that really took me out of it. Okay, that's just stupid. But you could tell that everyone making this cared so much about it. You cannot deny the sheer ambition that this film has and how much time, effort, and talent was poured into it. And this film is also really, really funny and so beautifully shot that I cannot recommend it enough. But again, there are a lot of dumb plot moments that really took you out. It's just moments that the script needs for events to keep going. Oh, we don't know how to get him from here to here, so we're just have this random hobo dude say, follow the coyote, you'll get to where you want to go. And the actual coyote shows up oh, okay, great, thanks for that movie. There's a lot of dumb moments like that, but still, I can understand why a lot of people hated this movie, why it's so divided critically and audience-wise, but I still highly recommend it. Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage. If you want to know what acid or LSD is like, if you're ever curious and wanted to know what it's like to take those drugs, watch this movie. That's exactly what it's like. This film, first of all, is absolutely gorgeous. This film is shot. There's not a dull shot in this film, and everything's just so visually beautiful. All the sets, the colors, the soundtrack is just, it's so good. It has that very grindhouse feel to it, which I love. I love grindhouse movies, and this is a perfect, like, homage to grindhouse type movies. Nicolas Cage, as always, is fantastic. This is one of his best performances. Like, ironically and unironically, he just goes full on Nicolas Cage in this, and it is incredible. I loved it. I guess the only problem I have really with it is, like, there's too much style and very little substance. Like, it's a very standard, revenge plot, like, but there's nothing else really much to it. Nicolas Cage doesn't develop that well. I mean, you get his motivation, but there's nothing much to him. I think the only character that has any sort of development really is the main villain, who's just a complete nut. The gore and violence in this film also is just done so perfectly too. It's so tasteful and very appropriate for this type of film. But again, the soundtrack to this film is just so, it's sex for my ears basically. It's so nice. It's so, those guitar riffs is just so. Next up we got 8th Grade. This is directed by Bo Burnham, who is a very talented comedian and musician. And this film is so wonderful and so joyous to watch. Basically the plot is that you follow this girl, Elsie Fisher, that's the name of the actress, who just going through 8th grade and just experiences what it's like for a teenager to go through 8th grade, that awkward and terrible time in our lives. And this film is not written by, boomers who have no idea how kids talk, who think kids say lit all the time and do Fortnite dances. No, this is written by someone who understands what it's like to be a kid, what a kid thinks, how a kid acts. I've never seen such a relatable, funny, charming, heartwarming film on this level before, and it felt so authentic. I guess the only gripe I have with it, like that could have been better, was the cinematography. It's very standard and nothing unique. It did fit with, like, the whole tone of the film, but I just wish it could have been a lot better and had some more flair and oomph to it. All the performances, especially from Elsie Fisher, who did a standout amazing job with her character, and the direction, the music, it's all so good. The way they incorporate technology and social media into a kid's life is done so accurately and so perfectly that I cannot imagine it being done in any other way besides this. Annihilation is one of the best sci-fi movies I've seen in a long time. Now, there are a lot of dumb moments and a lot of bleh acting. Natalie Portman was decent. She didn't do anything too great, but with the theme and like the tone of the film, I didn't really mind her that much. But this film is so interesting, and the science fiction is so different from anything else I've ever seen before in any other film, that I just can't help but admire what they've done. This film is also gorgeous to look at. The cinematography, the special effects are done so well. That bear creature was the highlight, the best part of that movie for me. That whole sequence with that mutant bear was perfect. The whole theme of, like, self-destruction and duplication was explored in such a smart and unique way. The visuals are perfect. Again, that bear and that orb at the end of the film, that, like, with all those ripples, it's so incredibly detailed. I think the only two actors I think did a great job was Oscar Isaac and what's her face from Jane the Virgin. I thought they were both great. Everyone else was just so bland and just dull. I didn't really care that much. But yeah, great sci-fi movie. Okay, so as I'm editing this, I realized that I forgot to add my notes for Revenge, which is on my top 21 list. But basically, I already made a review on it, so you can check that out right now. But hour after this video. But basically, to summarize, I think it's great. It has that nice revenge plot that I love so much. It's violent. It's badass. A lot of nice, like, beautiful shots. And the acting's pretty solid. It has a very Tarantino-esque vibe that I love. I always appreciate. Yeah, it's a solid movie. Watch it. And if you want more details, go watch my review. It's up right now. So, all right, back to the list. Black Klansman is directed by Spike Lee, and I was blown away by this movie. It was so great. I loved this movie. After my first watch, I got a little overhyped and thought it was like a perfect 10 out of 10. But after a second watch, there were things I just didn't particularly like as much. There were some shots that just didn't work for me. That was very distracting. And some of the editing choices was also pretty distracting too. But it's Spike Lee, so of course he has a very like distinct directing editing style. So I didn't really. It wasn't that jarring considering who was directing it. The ending was probably the best part of the movie, in my opinion. It was so incredibly powerful and unexpected. You cannot deny the absolute, like, this is clearly a Spike Lee passion project. He cared so much about making this movie. And I gotta respect him for that, considering like the other shitty movies he's made in the past before, and the very few good ones he's made. He also got great performances. I think the main character wasn't developed enough. I guess they were trying to make him seem mysterious, but it just came off as just underdeveloped. I didn't really care for him that much. I thought Laurel Harrier, is that what her name is? Laura Harrier and Adam Drive were fantastic in this, and so was Topher Grace. I was shocked by Topher Grace. He was amazing in this. So the social commentary was done very well, very eye-opening and very, like, you know, dramatic, and not in a bad way, but in a very cinematic way that I absolutely was captivated by while watching it in a theater. I definitely recommend you guys watch this one. Overlord was probably the biggest surprise to me of 2018. When I first saw the trailer to this film, I thought to myself, wow, this looks like total dog shit. And then I saw it, and I'm like, is this the same movie? What the hell happened here? I think for the most part, all the performances were great. The action and gore, the grindhouse feel that I love so much was all there and done so perfectly. And also, it's a World War II movie with Nazi zombies. I mean, come on, what more could you want? Okay, now, the marketing did kind of lie. There was a huge emphasis on the Nazi zombie aspect of it, but it never really bothered me that there was few. It didn't bother me that much because of how much fun I had while watching this movie. There's a lot of intense and like unsettling scenes in this movie. The deaths are all like, just gory as hell. It is cliched in a lot of areas. Like there's a lot of like, you know, it's obvious who's gonna die, like who has a target pointed out of their head. But and there, a lot of characters grow and have arcs in this film, and like I didn't really expect like this isn't Oscar-worthy writing, but this film had a very good script for, like, you know, a Nazi zombie World War II movie. I mean, come on, like, how could that even have a good script? Next up, we got Searching. This is also a big surprise for 2018. So, okay, so this film, the gimmick of this film is that it's presented, like, all through a computer screen. It's like, oh, look, we're presented through a computer screen, just like the Unfriended movies. But unlike the Unfriended movies, which are absolute dog shit, this movie is incredible. This movie is original, unique, so suspenseful, and so, like, unpredictable. I don't know how, like, people could say, oh, I was ahead of the curve, but I knew what was gonna happen. I had no idea what was gonna happen. Like, I was shocked at how great this movie was. The presentation was amazing. Like, everything had a purpose. Like, I like the way they use, like, you know, old computer systems to show passage of time. Like, everything, every presentation detail had a purpose to it. Like, everything was important to it. There's, like, little things you'll see, like, and when you watch back, you're like, oh yeah, I can't believe I even missed that. Justin Cho was also great in it. The story may not be original, but the way it's presented makes it feel so original and different. I guess the only, like, gripes I really had with it was, like, the music really sucked. It was very sappy and very, like, you know, manipulative. Some of the acting wasn't great either, like the daughter and the detective. They weren't that great. I thought they were just kind of ugh. But Justin Cho, he was great in it, and he was great, and he really added a lot to this great movie. So yeah, definitely watch it. Next up, we got Avengers: Infinity War. I reviewed this one already, but this film, again, incredibly ambitious. I was like shocked that they were able to balance so many characters and make everyone feel fleshed out, and, you know, have enough screen time. And I was shocked at how perfectly they were able to, like, you know, juggle each character and give them something to do. Thanos is an amazing villain, the best villain of the MCU by far. The special effects are incredible. They felt so polished and so clean. And the ending of this movie had me extremely excited to see what's gonna happen in Endgame. I cannot wait. We only got, what, how much time we left? Shit, that's like in like 3 months. Damn. Paul Schrader, Schrader, I don't know how to say his last name, but he directed First Reformed, which is a fantastic artsy, like, it's a very artsy film, and it's a very, very effective drama too. This film stars Ethan Hawke and Amanda Seyfried. Ethan Hawke giving the best performance of his lifetime. He was incredible, enthralling, and so investing. Like, I can't, is that a word? I was invested in Ethan Hawke's performance as he was invested in performing it. Seeing this man question his faith and lose his mind, slowly lose his mind, is so riveting to watch. And like seeing all the decisions he makes and see how he thinks and see what goes through his mind is so dark and disturbing. The cinematography, I think, is one of the best parts of this movie. The first shot adds so much to the atmosphere and tone and makes you feel so unsettled. I think Amanda Seyfried was also fantastic in this. The chemistry between her and Ethan Hawke was amazing. I guess I was really underwhelmed with the ending. The way it just ended, I just thought was like, oh, okay, that was kind of jarring. And I thought they were kind of pussied out on a lot of moments too. I thought it was going to end one way, but it didn't. Then I thought it was going to end another way, and it didn't. And they just had this like very sappy-ish ending. I mean, honestly, throughout the whole time, until the last 10-ish minutes, or actually I'd say the last 5 minutes, this was a perfect 10 out of 10. With a few, like, you know, moments that didn't really take away much of it. I thought this film was perfect until the last 5 minutes. I mean, everyone's different. You might watch and think the ending's perfect. I still love the film. I think it's a great film. I definitely recommend you guys watch it. But I guess the ending just put a sour taste in my mouth. And also, there's one weird trip out sequence. Like, it's, I don't know. I didn't really care for it that much. But yeah, 8 out of 10 movie. Bada boom. Watch it. It's good. Bad Times at the El Royale. This film was awesome. I loved it. I mean, I don't watch trailers that much for movies. I didn't see the trailer for this movie. I only heard of it. I wanted to see it. The only thing I saw from the trailer was Chris Hemsworth doing this. That by itself was enough to make me want to go see it, in all honesty. Every character in this film is so well developed and fleshed out and so intriguing to learn about. Everyone did a fantastic job with their performances, especially Jeff Bridges and what's the guy, the boy who plays Miles. They were all incredible. I loved them. Everyone did great, but those two were the highlight of that film for me. They were fantastic. There's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of unexpected moments. The cinematography is absolutely beautiful. This film has plenty of style and also plenty of substance. Again, this movie's too long. That's the biggest complaint I have with it. I got a very heavy Tarantino vibe, like in the way the story was told and how like the sequence of events happened. Chris Hemsworth did not disappoint. He was hamming it up. He was having a blast, and you were having a blast watching him. This movie was fantastic. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to see it again on Blu-ray. Next, we have The Favorite. This film was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who is a fantastic director and one of the best filmmakers working today. The previous two films I've seen from him were The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Both were fantastic films. Now, Yorgos has a very distinct style in filmmaking where the characters he films are very stilted and very robot-like, not human. Like, they don't act like people. They act very, like, stiff, like a wooden board. He's also very well known for making, like, you know, very disturbing jokes. Like, he's very well known for his black comedy, and it's always so funny. But this film was very different. Like, none of the characters died like a wooden board. They were all very fleshed out, and they all had personality, and they all had, like, emotions, like, you'd see. And I loved how each character you're introduced to starts off one way but ends up completely different. And you think Emma Stone starts off as this innocent, like nice, hardworking person, but then she becomes this manipulative bitch at the end of the movie. Olivia Colman gave one of the best performances of the year. There are a lot of over-the-top moments of her performance, but there are a lot of subtleties too that I absolutely adored. I guess if I were to complain, was my theater for some reason, the lighting kept changing. Like, I don't know if it was the projector's problem. It had to be the projector's problem, but it got dark. It was dark in one second, but then it brightened up, and it was very distracting. It took me out of the movie completely. And the ending, I'm still trying to figure out what that ending meant and how it ended. But everything else was goddamn near perfect. Everyone brought their A game. The direction was fantastic. Also, there were a lot of fisheye lenses that were used that really took me out of the movie. Like, I guess, the thing is, like, they're used, like, 4 times throughout this 2.5 hour long movie. 2.5 hours, is it? I don't know. And if it was used more, maybe I would be able to forgive it, but it just used, like, 4 times throughout this entire movie, and every time it showed up, it was distracting and just took me out of it completely. But besides that, like, the different lenses and the ending, I was having a blast. This movie is also so funny, and I swear to God, if Olivia Colman doesn't win an Oscar, or at least gets nominated, I'm gonna f***ing throw a fit. All the costuming, the set design was done so beautifully and felt so authentic that time period. Everything about this movie just felt so absolutely authentic and damn near perfect that I absolutely loved it. Next up, we got The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This is a Netflix movie directed by the Coen brothers. And I gotta say, I adored this movie from start to end. There was not a single low point in this movie. There's no low points, but there are points that just keep it from being absolutely perfect. This film is split up into segments. There are a total of 6 segments. They all explore this theme of death in their own different ways with different characters, different locations, different stories, different people. Each story is like so beautifully shot, and like the cinematography is so amazing. The set design, the costumes are all perfect. And the way the Coen brothers write their dialogue felt so authentic to the Western time period it took in. If I had to pick a complaint with it, is that like most segments are too short and most of them are too long. And I just wish that each segment had the same time length and same time to develop each character, because James Franco was the shortest out of all of them, and I want to see more with his character, but he was like sitting there for like 10 minutes. I want to see more of it, but I guess not. Definitely watch it. This is on Netflix right now, so you can watch it anytime you want and have fun with it. Next up, we got Lean on Pete. This is a coming-of-age story and a road trip story about a boy and his horse. That's basically it. This kid meets this horse, Lean on Pete, that's actually the horse's name, who is a racing horse, and after he finds out that this horse is about to get slaughtered and turned into glue, he steals the horse and just runs away. He tries to find his aunt, and it's just a story about a kid and his horse bonding. A lot of twists and turns that you don't expect. There's a lot of intense, enthralling, and heartwarming moments in this film that I just did not expect. The main actor was fantastic in it. Steve Buscemi is in it, and for like the 30 minutes he's in it, he was fantastic. The cinematography is beautiful. The locations are wonderful to watch. And just seeing the trauma and journey this kid goes through. This is one of the best coming-of-age stories I've seen in a long time, and I cannot wait to see it again. Alright, we're in the top 5 now. These are the top 5 movies of 2018. Number 5, Hereditary. This movie shocked the hell out of me. This movie didn't quite violate me like the movie after this one did, but this movie really, really did a number on me. Toni Collette just gave the best performance of her lifetime. She was incredible in this. There's a table scene where the whole family's there and they're just talking, and it just gets so intense, and the acting from everyone in that table was incredible. That scene was probably one of the best scenes of 2018. The best scene of 2018. It was so great. The direction was fantastic. This is the directorial debut of Ari Aster. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but wow, what a great first impression. Not only is this film well acted from everyone, but the story is so different and so disturbing on so many levels. And there are a lot of things that are just in frame on screen for such a long period of time, and you just notice it there, and it's just so disturbing and so freaky. I watched this on my laptop and in the dark alone at like midnight, and I was legit just like shuddering like at most of the scenes in this movie. This movie is violent, it's gross, it's disturbing, it's disgusting, and I loved it. There were a lot of technical aspects that I just like was shocked that was even in some scenes. Like again, there's that diner scene, which is fantastic. The acting was great, but every time the camera would cut back to the son, he was very obviously out of focus, and it was just so distracting. The son, he was probably the weakest actor in the whole movie, because every time he would cry, he sounded like he was fake crying, like he was mocking someone. It sounded like I'm not even kidding, that's exactly how it sounded like. It was kind of embarrassing. I mean, I don't know. The ending kind of felt kind of sloppy, like they were trying to explain what the ending was, and they just literally just explain it to us instead of like letting us figure it out. And I don't know, it just felt like it could have done a better way. It was very just like, you know, ham-fisted and very sloppy. It could have been done a lot better. But still, great movie. One of the best horror films I've seen in my life. Again, Toni Collette better win an Oscar for this performance, because she was astounding in this. Probably my favorite performance of the entire year. Next up, we have Suspiria, the 2018 remake. This movie violated me on so many levels. This movie is directed by Luca Guadagnino. He directed Call Me By Your Name, which I absolutely loved last year. And what he did was he took this classic horror movie and made it his own. The classic Suspiria was known for being one of the most colorful, experimental, and very different type of horror movie. And it's a classic, yeah, for sure, but I thought it was not really scary. I didn't think it was that scary. I thought it was kind of comical at times, and I just couldn't really take it too seriously. But this movie, holy f***. This movie is probably one of the grossest, most disturbing things I've ever seen in my life. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I do not want to spoil anything, but oh my god, there are a lot of scenes, like I was waiting for it to get disturbing, because the first 20 minutes are slow, yeah, and you're waiting for something to happen. And when it does, you're like, oh god, oh shit. Like you're about to throw the up. Tilda Swinton played 3 characters in this movie. I couldn't even tell. She played the dance teacher. She played the girl with the big glasses, like in the very, like, you know, coconut head hair. And she played that old man. She played that old man! I didn't know that until Ralph the Movie Maker said it in his review. There are only 2 male characters in this movie, and they're not even in it for more than 5 minutes. They're in it for like 2. This whole movie is just like all women, and it was absolutely incredible. All the performances were fantastic. The dance choreography was beautiful and amazing, and the film was so violent, which is always great for sure. Luca Guadagnino really put a lot of hard work into this film, and it shows. The score for this movie, oh, one of the best scores of this year. I loved this. The score. It has a lot of like different variations. I'm not gonna get too much into it. But check out the score like on iTunes. It's fantastic. I really tried to watch it like in the theater, but it has such a short release and a very limited release too that I just couldn't. It did release in my theater, but I just couldn't find the time to watch it. So I was waiting just patiently to watch it on iTunes, and so I can make this video, because I had to watch it so I can make this video. And now that I did, I can safely say this is one of my favorite films of 2018. And I highly recommend you guys watch it. Alright, we're at the top 3, and top 3 for me are kind of tied all for number 1, but each of them, I'm going to go from the ones that I loved the least to the most. Now, keep in mind, I loved all 3 of these movies, but each one had something that kept it back, while number 3 had a few things that kept it back. Number 2 had less things, but number 1 had nothing wrong with it whatsoever, so I'm going to go based off of that. Number 3 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is the best Spider-Man movie ever made. And if you know me, you know that I love Spider-Man 2. And when a Spider-Man movie passes that, it's a masterpiece. Because Spider-Man 2 is damn near a masterpiece, and this movie passes it completely. The only gripe I have with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is 2 of the music selections. There are 2 scenes in this movie that's like, you know, supposed to be like, you know, very somber and sad, and they're just playing Lil Wayne in the background, like a sad Lil Wayne song, and it just completely doesn't fit at all. But everything else is perfect. This is one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's one of the best animated movies ever made. And the animation is so different from anything else I've ever seen before. Anything else you'll ever see before. This is a very distinct and unique animation style that I hope more studios utilize in the future. It's like it's legitimately, I've said this phrase before and I kind of hate using it, but this is literally a comic book come to life on the big screen. All the characters are fleshed out and so enjoyable to watch. Everyone will have a Spider-Man that they can relate to. They can relate to Miles or Gwen, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, Penny Parker. Me, personally, I relate to Peter B. Parker. Jake Johnson does a fantastic job performing it. But the heart and soul of this movie is Miles Morales. I remember when Miles Morales first came out, and I read the comic book. Hold on, I even have it. I remember when Miles Morales first came out, and I first read his comic, and I immediately fell in love with him. And I can safely say that this film does him justice. All the voice actors bring personality and life to the characters, and the animation brings so much life to the characters too. The character design is honestly perfect. I love the design of Kingpin, and Liev Schreiber brings so much more to that design and to the character. You can tell that this movie is going to be different just from the opening logos. The opening logos had so much style too, and I was like just shocked, and I loved it. And I swear to God, if this does not win an Oscar for Best Animated Movie, I'm gonna be f***ing pissed. If this goes to Incredibles or Ralph Breaks the Internet, I am gonna have a fit. This movie is infinitely better than those two. This is a perfect 10 out of 10 movie for me. And yeah, it had those, you know, 2 song choices that took me out of it, but in no way near destroy this movie for me. And I cannot wait to see it again. I need to see it in the theater at least 2 more times because it's so good. It's a perfect coming of age story. It's a perfect superhero movie, and it's just one of the best animated movies I've ever seen in my life. If not the best animated movie I've ever seen in my life. Alright, number dos, we got Blind Spotting. This movie was amazing. The only gripe I have with this movie is that the main actor, I don't know his name. This guy right here, some of his line delivery was a bit off, but everything else was fantastic. The chemistry between him and his best friend was so enjoyable to watch. This movie is incredibly funny, beautifully shot, has plenty of great social commentary that doesn't feel forced or unnatural. The characters are all fantastic and well-rounded and well-developed. The last scene of this movie, the garage scene, was one of the most intense, enthralling, and entertaining things I've ever seen in my life. You feel for this character, the main character, you feel that what he's going through, what he's seen, what he's been through, and you hope you want him to make it out in the end. It's such a thought-provoking movie, and it makes you think so much, like, you know, the social climate of everything, like the themes of identity and how people judge you based on how you look, and there's a lot of that, and I absolutely loved it. And I could say this is one of the most refreshing and fun movies I've seen in a long time, and unfortunately it's not number 1. It's great, it's a great movie, and it deserves all the recognition because no one saw this movie, and it's very upsetting, but it's not number 1. The number 1 movie of the year goes to Roma, directed by Alfonso Cuarón. This movie put me through hell, let me tell you. I sat on this chair, watched it on my TV, and did not move for the whole 2 hour and 30 minute runtime. Was it 2 hours and 30 minutes? I don't know, but the whole runtime. I was invested from the first shot in this movie. And you could tell from the first shot of this movie that the director put a lot of care and hard work into it. This movie is presented in black and white and is absolutely gorgeous. The cinematography is on another level. It's simplistic, but so beautiful. It is so simplistic, but has so much style and beauty to it. But that style and beauty covers up this disturbing and unsettling themes of how these characters live their lives and what they're going through. There's a lot of disturbing moments of this movie that are not covered up, but polished by this beautiful cinematography and lighting. I actually had no idea that this was a biopic based on the director. The director is one of the kid actors in the movie, and he's not even the main character. The main character is the maid that he grew up with. And it's such a different and unique way of telling a story about yourself. The kid actors, by the way, are all amazing. They didn't suck. Thank God. This movie takes place in Mexico, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Somewhere on the streets of Mexico. And honestly, I immediately felt a connection to it because it's an environment I'm very familiar with. Not Mexico per se, but the type of environment. I grew up in Brazil for 4 years, like the first 4 years of my life, and I recognize people like that in the movie. I know people who have like, you know, housemaids who are like family to them. I'm familiar with the violence that the movie depicts, and that connection made me feel so much more to the movie. There's also a lot of nice, beautiful one-shot takes, a lot of smooth camera work. And there's a lot of intense and like just heart-stopping moments. It was a perfect movie, and there's necessarily no real plot to this movie either. There's no actual story. You just see this maid just go through this journey in her life and trying to find who she is and how she's gonna raise a child in this climate. I have no doubt in my mind that this will win Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. It has to. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of other foreign films. I really wish I did, but this film deserves it. This deserves so many awards. This deserves Best Director, Best Performances, Best everything. Everything about this movie is perfect. There's not a single low point in this movie. I love Roma. It's on Netflix, and I highly recommend you guys watch it. It is a perfect movie and my favorite film of the year.